Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of No Huddle with Zach Arndt. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Mississippi State Bulldogs, giving a preview for this upcoming 2022 college football season. Led by head coach Mike Leach going into year 3, along with offensive coordinator Mike Leach, he also calls the plays, defensive coordinator Zach Arnett. Some key players returning for the Bulldogs. You have Will Rogers, the tremendous quarterback. He had a very good 2021 season. Obviously, playing for Mike Leach, you're going to be airing the ball out, throwing it about 85-90% of the time. They have Emmanuel Forbes, the corner, along with LaQuiston Sharp, the center. Looking at some key losses, they lost Charles Cross, first-round overall draft pick, at left tackle. Corner, Martin Everson. He didn't have a huge production season last year, but on the edge, he was a solidified starter for a couple years. Makai Polk, last year at receiver, he had over 1,000 yards, 10 yards per catch, and 9 total touchdowns. They have Percy Lewis, who's a JUCO transfer. This is a guy I'm very familiar with. He was committed to Oregon. Obviously, that's a team I follow a lot. Big, 6'7", 360 pounds. This guy's going to come in and start right away. I really don't see any reason why he would go to Mississippi State if he wasn't going to start. He played junior college for a couple seasons. Looking at 2022 recruits that they pulled in, they got 3 4-stars. They got Jacarius Clayton, a defensive lineman, along with defensive lineman Travion Williams. They went out and got 4-star wide receiver Marquez Dortch. Looking at the depth chart heading into this season, 2 starting receivers return in Austin Williams and Jaden Wally. They're going to have to break in Rara Thomas or Scooby Ford at wide receiver 3. As I mentioned, left tackle Percy Lewis. I don't see any reason he wouldn't start at left tackle. But left guard, center, right guard, they return all 3 starters, 3 seniors, Cameron Jones, LaQuiston Sharp, and Cole Smith. At right tackle, it's either going to be Albert Reese or Steven Lasoya. Quarterback, Will Rogers. Running back, Jaquavius Marks. Obviously, they're not going to run the ball a lot. He's going to be a receiving threat out of the backfield for them. Also forgot to mention, they have Caleb Ducking at wide receiver 4, a true senior. They don't use a tight end, really. Usually 4 wide. Air raid offense, almost never see a tight end. Looking at defense, 2 starting D linemen returned, 2 seniors in Cameron Young and Jaden Krumedi. Probably said that wrong. But then you have defensive end Jordan Davis, not Jordan Davis from Georgia last year. This is a different Jordan Davis, along with DeMonte Russell and Nathan Pickerington. Randy Charlton also returns. He's going to be a backup. He's a senior. He did start a few games last year. But I think Tyrus Wheat or Cameron Young are going to start on the outside. Cameron Young also can play defensive tackle along with Jordan Davis. Middle linebacker, you have Nathaniel Watson and Jet Johnson. Very experienced defense. A lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. Looking at the defensive backfield, you have DeCameron Richardson, Marcus Banks, DeCarlos Nicholson, and Emmanuel Forbes all at corner. Their nickel spot, also called the Bull. They're going to have a new player there. Either going to be Sean Preston Jr. or Corey Ellington. They do return both of their starting safeties in Jalen Green and Colin Duncan. So a lot of production returning at the back end. Last year, Will Rogers threw for 4,800 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Rushing-wise, the team only ran for about 800 total yards on the season. They had 2 400-yard rushers in Dylan Johnson and Jaquavius Marks. Both combined for a total of 10 touchdowns. Looking at some team stats. Offensive efficiency, they ranked 8th, which top 10 in the country. Very solid for Mike Leach. Offensive explosive plays, 64th. Finishing drives, they ranked 67th on offense and 68th on defense. Turnover margin, they ranked 80th. They were -2 on the season. Scoring-wise, they averaged 30 points per game, which is good for 59th. Averaged 60 rushing yards, which was second to last in the country at 130th. Passing offense was 4th at 378 yards per game. So like I said, Mike Leach doesn't really believe in running the football. He's going to throw it as many times as possible. Defensive-wise, they allowed 26 points per game, 63rd ranked in the country. They only allowed 113 rushing yards per game, which was 12th. Passing yards allowed per game, 231, ranked 71st in the country. They allowed 340 total yards a game, which was good for 30th. All those stats were good for a 7-6 record last year, 4-4 in the SEC, and they got smoked in their bowl game in the Liberty Bowl to Texas Tech, 34-7. Looking ahead to 2022, now the record that I predict for them isn't going to tell the whole story and how good this team can actually be. I mean, they play in the SEC West. They're probably at the bottom of the SEC West this year. So they play the hardest schedule in the country, or one of the hardest. I think Auburn plays the hardest probably. They play Georgia every year. But Mississippi State starts out with Memphis. I have them winning that, along with traveling to Arizona and grabbing another win there. At LSU, I think is a loss. Bowling Green, a win. Then I have them losing the next 4 to Texas A&M, Arkansas, at Kentucky, and at Alabama. The only game out of those 4 I see them being competitive in is that Kentucky game. I think they'll lose to Auburn and Georgia. Bounce back, out-of-conference game, East Tennessee State. A little warm-up before the Egg Bowl at Ole Miss. I expect that game to be an absolute shootout. I do think Ole Miss will come out on top, and that puts Mississippi State at 4-8 in Mike Leach's 3rd season. Now, if you're a Mississippi State fan watching this, don't think, oh, he just doesn't like Mississippi State, he doesn't believe in them. Well, actually, I do believe in them. It's just the SEC's loaded. They're in the toughest division in football. Maybe next season. I mean, I think Will Rogers has another year of eligibility, along with they have a lot of juniors. A lot of guys can come back they have like a COVID year of eligibility left. So maybe in 1 or 2 seasons, Mississippi State can go bowling again. I just don't see it happening this year. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll catch you in the next one.